morning, world.
Good morning.
So Cedric was nice enough to be questioned by my daughter for her class in college. And they'll explain exactly what the class is for. But we're going to release this because, as of your viewing, I'm on vacation. And so is Angeline, actually. We're all in Nuevo Vallarta at Vidanta, the Grand Mayan. So I'm sure we're having a great time there. So we are going to play the video that she did for her class. And we're doing it because school's over now and she doesn't want the repercussions
Absolutely.
for being on Cedric and Brian.
Yeah, we didn't want to do this early because I didn't want to be the reason for Angeline getting a bad grade in her class.
Yeah. So hope you enjoy this, and we'll let them take it away.
Hi, my name is Angeline Heller, and today I have Cedric here. I will be interviewing him for one of my classes for school. The class is a cultural diversity class in schoolings. And the point of this assignment is I need to interview someone from a different background than me. Can't be part of my extended family, immediate family. So here I am with Cedric, who is African American. Do you prefer that?
Oh, wow, right off the bat. African American. I prefer black.
Okay.
Now, throughout time, when I was born, if you look at my birth certificate, in the late 60s, I'm not going to give you the exact year, it is actually listed as Negro.
Okay.
And then from there, I believe in the 70s and 80s, I was referred to as African American. I prefer black because, truth be told, I've never been to Africa. So I am an American American.
Yes.
Although I do know African Americans, which come from different parts of Africa, whether they're white or black or whatever they may be.
Okay. And for just background information, how old are you?
Oh, you're gonna make me say it anyway? Jeez, this is bamboozle. I was set up here. I was born in 1967, so I am a double nickel. I am 55 years old. I know I don't look it, but I am 55.
All right. And what are your religious views?
My religious views, I classify myself as Christian. I am a Christian, I guess, a Protestant. I don't adhere to one religion, although I do have a relationship with God, you could say. Yeah, okay. So that's probably the best way to say it.
All right. And what is your gender?
My gender? I have to actually say that? Okay, the class. I guess, to use the language of the day, I am a cis male, which means I am a biological male. But if to skip all the rigmarole, I'm a male.
Throughout time, there has been racism. And how do you view racism now? Do you think it has gotten better? Do you think as a country we have gotten rid of it? What are your views on racism currently?
Racism today, I think it's really, it's gone away a lot thanks to the civil rights movement, leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., and people like that. Racism has really gone away. Now, it's kept alive by individuals. I know there's a lot of people out there who say that we live in a systemically racist society. I have a hard time with that because I've achieved certain goals and accomplished certain things, and I was never held back because of my race. Have I ran across racist individuals? Yes, I have, on both sides of the aisle, whether they're white or whether they're black. I've come across individuals who are racist, but do I believe that the society as a whole is racist? No, not at all.
So bringing back to police brutality and all of that, many people try to say that the police are racist. Do you agree with that or do you disagree?
Well, that kind of piggybacks on my last answer. Are there bad police officers? Absolutely. Are there bad teachers? Absolutely. Are there bad chiropractors? I know a few, but that doesn't mean that they're all bad. I think you just have to take the good with the bad and realize that the policemen as a whole, they have a very hard, difficult job. And it's really sad because you see fewer and fewer people entering the academy because they're shown so much disrespect. I have never had a negative interaction with a police officer because I showed them respect.
Yes.
Now, I have seen stories, and we've all heard stories about the police officer that shoots the black individual, shoots the person of color. More often than not, it's if you do what the police officer says, you won't run into that situation.
Yes. So it's just, there's the good and bad everywhere. You can't just, one person's bad, so they're all bad.
Yeah. The problem is that the person that does, the cop that does the bad thing, they're highlighted. You never, and I think that's our society as a whole. We like to really glorify the bad things that happen and minimize the good things that happen. I think overall, the police are great because you hear a lot of people who just put the cops down, but when something goes wrong, something jumps off, who's the first person you call?
The police.
You hope the police are going to show up, and you hope they're bringing a gun.
Yes. And now going to guns, so you believe we should be able to protect ourselves?
Absolutely. I believe wholeheartedly in the Second Amendment. With having guns, it's a great responsibility.
Yes.
So I think people should be trained with that. I think we should do a better job of doing background checks, make sure that people are mentally capable of handling a firearm. But I think in the situation where you see a lot of people being burglarized and stuff, more often than not, bad people with guns are usually stopped by good people with guns.
Yes. And now going back to racism, when you, on a day-to-day basis, do you feel like a lot of the times you are caught with people who do make racist comments, or do you feel like that never happens anymore to you as an individual?
Me as an
often
individual.
do you get it?
I think that could be a geographical thing. We're here in Southern California. You don't get it nearly as much here in the western states, especially Southern California. My dad had a great analogy a long time ago, being from Mississippi. He said it was easier being a black man in the South with him growing up because someone would look at you. If they didn't like you, they would call you the N-word, cross the street and go the other way. My dad said that was cool because I knew where I stood with you. He said in western states like California, they'll smile at you and then call you the N-word behind your back.
Oh.
And so I've heard that before too. But me personally, I've never had any blatant disregard for my nationality by a racist individual.
Okay. Now, what about growing up? How was it growing up? Did you have more comments then growing up?
Well, again, growing up, I was fortunate to grow up in Southern California, Los Angeles. I've had one or two instances in middle school where, a long time ago when I used to go to daycare after school because both my parents worked and we were out playing baseball after school. And two teenagers rode by on their beach cruisers, and one hawked a loogie and hurled it my way and called me the N-word and rode off. But back to what you said about 2 questions ago, does that mean that all white people are racist? Absolutely not. Those two individuals were racist. And sometimes I think about that, thinking like, I wonder how they've changed today. Like, did something happen in their lives where they completely changed and they said, you know, and I probably shouldn't have did that. I wish I could find that little black kid who I did that to. And I honestly believe he may have changed his mind.
Now, because you're Christian, how has being black influenced your church growing up? Was it majority black with other black people? Was it a mix?
It was a mix. Again, we go back to my melting pot being in California. I have an uncle who is a Baptist minister in Mississippi. So I used to tease him a lot, and I can do the gravelly, well, the Lord has come down and the Lord is good. I still mock him for that today. So different churches, depending on what state you're in, will dictate how they are. Me growing up in a Protestant Lutheran church, and for those of you who don't know that background, that started from the German culture. So it was a lot of white people were around. But then going to church, you believe that we're all the same. We all believe the same. So I felt comfortable in churches with Hispanic people, with white people, with black people. But I think to answer your question, my church was predominantly white. And I think that without me even knowing it kind of helped me see through the lens of color and not judge people based on their color.
Yes.
I just we're all here worshiping the same God. You're black, you're white, you're whatever, but we all worship the same God.
Yes. So you feel everyone is equal. Do you feel you get treated equally being black?
Me personally?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Or even, now what about as a whole of the black community? Do you feel
I believe that they do. I mean, and you look at certain things that have happened. You talk about giving someone an advantage. I think a lot of people of color, I know that's the term used today, people of color, that I get certain advantages because my own children had the benefit of going to college on what's called a diversity scholarship, which isn't afforded to white people. I know that there's hiring quotas or for hiring people of color in the workplace. So I think there's any advantage. People of color today have a very distinct advantage over white people that the people aren't even aware of.
Yes.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I have a tendency to
Yes.
ramble.
Yes. No, you're good.
Okay, all right.
What are your views on Black Lives Matter?
Am I allowed to use? I can't use foul language.
No.
Okay, well, I'll keep it clean. Black Lives Matter. It's they were huge and they were really hot and heavy back in 2020. But I have a very bad taste in my mouth for BLM because it has done nothing but perpetuate racism in our society. It's a society that has raised, I'd say, in excess of close to 80, 85, 90 million dollars. And there is an individual around, and I've asked people, where has that money gone? Where has that money gone to help the Black lives in major cities like Los Angeles and Baltimore and Detroit, where you see all the steal and grab and the running and things like that? Nothing's gone there. And you've seen like people who have started BLM, like Patrice Cullors. She lives in a beautiful mansion in Los Angeles, and the people who are in the higher ups of BLM, they're benefiting financially, but BLM as a whole hasn't not helped the Black community. And I know people get upset when I say that, but then I don't pretend to be any political party or another, but I like to stand back and look at situations and say, what is going on with this? Mm-hmm. What is BLM really doing? And people hate when I say this, but you only see them like once every 4 years. They've kind of gone away now. And I think you'll see them again back in 2024 to raise a little bit more havoc and to keep things going.
It's more when a big event or situation happens that you see them come back out.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, it's like they were really around when the white cop shot the Black individual who wasn't complying in the first place, and they would come out in full force, and then they leave again. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what was Black Lives Matter during the case of a gentleman I really respected during 2020, David Dorn, a retired police officer who was shot during the riots, and Black Lives Matter was nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And I know I say this tongue in cheek, and I don't mean any offense to the organization, but they've kind of brought it upon themselves. I like to call them CBLM. It's not really Black Lives Matter, it's certain Black Lives Matter. If you're a Black individual and you are in a line with their thoughts and beliefs, they're all about you. If you think differently or you're a free thinker, they want nothing to do with you.
Yeah. You just have to follow whatever they follow.
Yeah. I'm not giving you a bad grade right now, am I?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And what would you say your socioeconomic status is currently?
Middle class. Growing up, I was a part of a middle class family. My family, my mom and dad worked very hard. My dad worked for the state and for the government, and so in essence, we were a 3-income family. So that helped a lot. But right now I see myself as a middle class.
Middle class. And do you feel like you've had advantages, disadvantages?
Absolutely. I have a very distinct advantages. One, first and foremost, being born in this country. That gave me a very distinct advantage right off the bat. Being born in this side of the States, the Western Hemisphere. Like I said before, my dad, growing up in Mississippi, he told me the main reason he left Mississippi because there's just no industry in Mississippi for not only Black people, but for people in general. So he came out here to California, joined the Army, got a job, worked his fingers to the bone, and made something of himself and for his kids, me and my sister.
So would you feel that with your socioeconomic status, do you feel privileged in that sense, or just, that's how?
Yeah, I feel privileged in the sense that I have work privilege. I have the opportunity every single day to get up and go do something, or I have the opportunity to stay in my house and play video games and bemoan the fact that something wasn't handed to me. And that kind of goes back to, I guess, my Christian beliefs as well. It's like, well, we should help people out. I know back in the days they did the gleaning in the fields when they would pick the fruit and they would leave the other fruit that fell on the ground for the homeless and people who were downtrodden to come get it. The big thing with that is they told them to come get it. We're not going to bring it to you. We're not going to hand it to you. But if you want to come get it, it's all you. And I think that's America in a nutshell. If you want to get up and go get it, go get it. You're not going to have the same outcomes as everybody else because we're all built differently, which is great. But I think everyone has the same opportunity.
So do you feel like you have had to work harder for things being Black compared to a white person?
I was told that a lot by my mom. My mom used to always tell me as a child, she goes, in order to achieve the same thing that a white person has, you have to work twice as hard. maybe that was the situation for her back in the days. Nowadays, I don't see it. I think a lot of days people are looking at, well, the way it should be. It's not always this way. Can I hire the individual, regardless of race, regardless of gender, that is going to make my company profitable and do the best job for me and fit in? So I don't think that I have to work as hard to get my job done. Do I have to work twice as hard to achieve the same results? Absolutely not.
All right. So you mentioned opportunity. Now,
Yes.
how do you feel with the equality of outcome?
Equality of outcome, I think that's, especially in today's world, is that people, and I can speak on this being a person of color or being a black man, I think people say that I want the same outcome as individuals, even though I don't put in the same effort. I think we all start at the same place. And again, we're not conflating this with back in the 60s at the civil rights movement. But in today's world, in today's economy, the outcome is not always going to be the same. I can work as hard as I can. I wouldn't be the gymnast you are. I'm not built that way. I don't have the same mindset as intellectual people like Albert Einstein. But everyone's not gonna have the same outcome. But everybody can put in equal amount of effort. So I don't think that's a racist thing. I don't think that's a gender thing. That's just a thing among people. I mean, you see it today even in sports. I mean, some people who work harder in sports, whether it's basketball or football, are going to have a different outcome than someone who doesn't work as hard or isn't as tall or isn't as strong.
Some things are just out of your power.
Yeah, some things are out of your power. And I think Dr. King did a great job of that, of trying to convince everybody we want blacks to have an even playing field, not to have a head start, but everyone have an even playing field. And then once the gun goes off and the guy drops the flag, everybody can run the same race. And I think he did an incredible job of that. But I think in today's world, I think people are confused by the fact that, well, if I don't achieve the same outcome as this other individual, then that's racism. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Now, saying that you don't think they should have like a head start. So how do you feel about equity? By, equity and equality, they're different.
Right.
So do you think everyone should be equal, or do you think there should be equity for black people where they should get, that head start a little bit?
No, I mean, I'm not a big fan of affirmative action because, truth be told, it's a little insulting. Because anytime it's kind of like when you played basketball with your kids when you're young, and you play to 11, and you say, okay, I'm gonna spot you 8 points, and then we'll play. Well, that's not fair, and that's telling him I don't respect you enough to put in the work to do what you need to do. Yeah. I think, and again, like I said before, living in America, it's equal. It's already equal. I just have to get up each morning and work, and I have to understand that I may work, I may bust my behind, but my outcome may not be the same as someone else.
Okay, so you believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome.
Absolutely. You just give me I think that's when you run to a hard stone right there, is when you don't give someone the same opportunity. And I believe in this country, I do have the same opportunity as everybody else. It's just what I do with it once I get the opportunity is completely up to me. I always made the saying, like, I don't want a hand out, but I'll take a hand up. If I can open the door for me, but then it's up to me to kick that door open, walk through it, and then make something of myself.
Yes. And now, going back to kind of off topic a little bit now, but with race, when is the first time growing up that you really saw race? Like, what was an event where you were like, okay,
okay, I know what you're saying. When was the first time I noticed that maybe I was different from everyone else?
Yeah.
Or, oh, wow. That's not fair. If you had asked someone a lot younger, their memory would have been a lot fresher. But I have to think way back now. Well, like I said earlier, the incident being in middle school, that resonated with me. Having two white individuals ride by on their bicycles and hock a loogie and spit at me and use the N-word. And matter of fact, I don't think I even talked to my parents about that because it was just something I just didn't want to talk about. It felt awkward. It felt weird, but it didn't beat me up. And then also growing up in middle school, I learned that people started to go their separate ways, as I was expected to listen to R&B music and to wear my hair a certain way and things like that. And then my white friends listened to other types of music and things like that. So I was aware of the fact that people expected me to act a certain way or talk a certain way based on my skin color. But I think, again, by being grounded in my religion and my faith, I came back to the fact that we're all the same.
Now, when you say talk a certain way, do you think you have that dialect? Do you think you have a specific dialect where you talk a specific way?
Yeah, I have a very distinct West Coast dialect. Again, like I said, I'm blessed to have family in the South, Mississippi and Alabama, and they talk with a little bit of a twang in their voice and things like that. To this day, my dad cannot say the word sandwich. He says sandwich. He calls shrimp scrimp. And I think a lot of people have to understand that the reason that millions and millions and millions of Chinese kids speak Chinese is because it's what they hear every day. The reason I speak the way I speak, because growing up in Southern California, about 6 or 8 miles from the beach, I was around a lot of people that spoke a different way. Now, my sister and I, we have that same problem where people will hear us talk and they say, oh, well, you're trying to speak white. And at first I would scratch my head and say, well, what does that mean? If I enunciate or I say what I want to say clearly, does that mean I'm talking white? And conversely, what does talking black mean? Because I'm a prankster at heart, I can change my dialect a little bit and play around a little bit and talk with a more of a urban type tone. But the way I speak is the way I speak.
Yeah. And so have you been insulted because, oh, you're trying to talk white? Do you take that as an insult?
No, I don't. I know it's a people there. And again, I've never pigeonholed myself into thinking, well, because I'm black, I have to speak this way. But I have people say to me in the past, like, oh, you're trying to be white. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be white. I'm trying to be Cedric. And Cedric speaks differently than anybody else. And because I'm not a monolith, I'm not going to tie myself into thinking, well, because I look like this individual, or I look like that individual, I have to speak like them. I have to talk like them. I think our strength is our individuality. And you have people that speak different ways, and I think we should relish that and be strong in that.
And now so speaking a certain way, and how do you feel with, because some people, a lot of black people, they do the braids. Now, when people who aren't black do the braids, then it's cultural appropriation. How do you feel about that?
Well, again, you're fortunate because you're talking to an old individual. But back in I think it was in the early 70s, there was a great movie out with starring Bo Derek called 10. And I think she received a lot of flack because she had her blonde hair in braids and she had beads at the end. And supposedly that was the way that black people wore their hair. But what a lot of black people don't understand is that, well, the Vikings wore their hair in braids first. A term I always like to use is, as opposed to cultural appropriation, is cultural appreciation. Again, being blessed with living in this country and living on this side of the country, we see so many different cultures, whether it be black or white or Hispanic, and we have Asians, we have Germans, and I think if we all learn to learn from each other, we can appreciate everyone's culture. So I don't think that because a white person listens to R&B or because a black person loves Asian food, I don't think we should beat each other up for that, but use that as an opportunity to learn from each other and
just appreciate the
it.
culture.
Absolutely.
Yes. Growing up, did you hang out with more black people or more white people, a mix of both? Were you in more of a black neighborhood, white neighborhood? How was that like growing up?
My neighborhood growing up in West LA was very diverse. My friend Rodney lived 2 blocks over. He was black. I hung out with a lot of black people because I grew up playing basketball. I know that sounds racist, but in the parks and stuff, that's a lot of my friends who were black would play at the parks. But I also had friends that lived in Santa Monica and Malibu and places like that, and they would say, hey, do you want to go to the beach this weekend, and do you want to try surfing? And I've always been that person, like, I've never tried that, but I'll try it. I never associated that with color. Now, in the spirit of being completely honest, you associate certain things with certain cultures and things like that, surfing and things like that. You associate that with white people, but I never looked down on that. I always looked at it and relished it as a chance to learn something new and be a part of something different.
So now, associating with color, do you think that being black, you're stereotyped a lot?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and stereotypes are there for a reason. I mean, I think people look at stereotypes as a negative connotation, but I think stereotypes are there for a reason. Let's go back to your conversation about the police. Mm-hmm. Do the police stereotype people? Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. And I think to their benefit, they do. Now, if I were to walk down the street, and I always tell my kids this, you can present yourself however you want, but know that you are your own best commodity, and how you dress and how you present yourself is how you market yourself to others. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying that you should dress a certain way or talk a certain way, but just be aware of the fact that when people look at you, they're judging you.
Yeah.
I was talking to a good friend of mine a couple of days ago, talking about the hairstyle. Mm-hmm. And it's a woman friend of mine, and she is black, and she says, I'm completely aware of the fact that when I go on interviews, that if I wear my hair in braids, I will be perceived a lot differently than if I have it pressed or straightened. Yeah. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but it presents an image.
Yeah.
As a teenager growing up, I knew that if I drove my car down the street very slow, with bass bumping as loud as it could, and my pants were sagging slightly below my behind, I would be perceived a different way than if I had on khaki pants, a button-up polo shirt, and articulated and looked people in the eye when I spoke.
Now, going off stereotyping, and usually, you relate black people to more R&B type of music. What was the music that you listened to growing up? Has it changed? What do you listen to now?
Growing up, I listened to mainly R&B, and again, like I said, for my dad being from Mississippi, my mom from Alabama, I grew up listening to blues. I love the blues. I grew up listening to classic black artists, the OJs, the Temptations. The Motown sound was very prevalent in my household. But then I went to a school in Santa Monica, and my friends would listen to this stuff. I'm like, what is this letter? ACDC and things like that. And although it kind of hurt my ears a little bit, I would listen to it and give it a chance. As I grew and I started to mature, my music, along with my taste in foods, because I love, I'm a foodie. I love, whether it be sushi, no matter what it is, I love it. My musical taste started to expand. A lot of people look at me with the side eye when I tell them that I'm a big fan of country. I love going to country concerts, to me, because it has a blues feel, that storytelling feel. But growing up in high school, I listened to, I guess, the anti-establishment bands like the NWA and people like that. And I can't say the word, but blank the Police and things like that. And also reading a lot of books taught me that be careful what you put in, because what you digest, whether it be food or what you digest mentally, ultimately becomes who you are. So I like everything now, except for hard rock. Can't do it.
All right, and now I'm going to circle back kind of to the beginning and ask you, what are your preferred pronouns?
My pronouns?
Yes.
My pronouns. Oh, geez. Again, talking to an old head here. Pronouns meant something completely different growing up in school. Like a noun was a person, place, or things, and a pronoun was a noun that got paid to be a noun. I'm just kidding. It's a little joke there. I mean, I might be outdated and getting old, but my pronouns are, and correct me if I'm wrong, he and him.
Yes.
He, him, but more importantly, the pronoun that I hang my hat on is American, Christian, friend. I'm not really big on the whole pronoun thing. I know it's huge nowadays, but it's not something that's really been a part of my life. So sorry if I offend anyone with that. Didn't mean to, but he and him.
All right, thank you.
And stud.
And stud.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
All right.
As long as I get to pick. We're gonna go with that.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me interview you. You have been very helpful for helping me out with my class.
I hope I answered your questions to the best way, and I hope you get a good grade in the class.
Thank you.
Because you deserve it, despite the fact that you're not ethnic. Or as ethnic as others, but you deserve a good grade anyway.
Thank you.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that interview. Angeline put a lot of hard work into it. And also, random question I have, how many of you guys, leave it in the comments section, think I should replace Brian with Angeline?
Great.
Because she'd be better on the show. We'll call it Cedric and Angeline.
I don't want to hear it, Rob Perry.
No, but she did a good work. I've known Angeline before she was born.
Yeah.
And so, she's a great young lady. It's hard for young people nowadays to be in today's college environment, but hats off to her.
Especially that kind of class, because I've been a fly on the wall and listened to some of the comments and the subject matter of that type of cultural class. It's kind of sad that we're paying that kind of money for that kind of class when she should just be learning the basics, you know.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
But so, that's where we are.
Yep. As we end up, like Brian said, if you guys have kids that are in college, high school, make sure you're involved. Make sure you talk to them at the dinner table about what they're learning, what they talked about, what they discussed, and why they believe what they believe.
Because I have many friends, and a lot of them are police officers who have kind of lost their kids to the woke mob, and now their kids are actually kind of turned against the parents, and it's just sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and continue sharing our channel with everything you know.
Everything you know?
Sharing our channel with everything and everyone you know.
Everything. I don't
tired.
know what a thing is.
Everything. I mean, I don't know how people identify. They could be things. I'm just playing along. And continue talking to your kids. Until next time, I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. We'll see you later.